outdoors.
Closed captioning for News 12 is brought to you by Kenneth Nugent. From the station that's on your side, this is News 12 First at 5.
Tragic news out of Columbia County this afternoon. We're just learning a 10-year-old boy has died after this house fire in Martinez. All this coming from the Columbia County coroner. The scene is Sarah Creek Court around 2 o'clock. Officials tell us crews forced their way in that home. There were actually 3 children inside when they did. They found the first 2 children in an upstairs bedroom. They say at first they were not able to locate that third child because the extent of the smoke and damage and the extent of the damage of the fire. But the coroner says that child is 10-year-old Nicholas Mai, M-A-I. When they got the fire extinguished, they found him behind a couch. They took him to a doctor's hospital for treatment. Of course, the burn center is there. The children's parents later got home and followed the ambulance to the hospital, but tragic news today out of Columbia County. We'll let you know when we learn more about that situation. No word yet on what caused that fire. The Georgia Cancer Center working to help reduce cancer rates. They say nearly half of cancer deaths here in Georgia are linked to risk factors that can change, like obesity or using tobacco. As Claire Allen reports, they're using that information as the basis for a new partnership.
The Georgia Cancer Society and Augusta Locally Grown have partnered together in order to provide fresh foods for people living here in Peabody Apartments. This all was made possible with a $400,000 grant given to the Cancer Society in order to create a place for healthier lifestyle. This program was one of 10 funded across the nation, and the only one funded in the state of Georgia. The Cancer Center, Augusta Locally Grown, and the Augusta Housing Authority teamed up to open Peabody's Garden. The store will be stocked with weekly fresh produce like carrots, peaches, onions, and cabbage, just to name a few. Dr. Marlo Vernon says this program is a start to help eliminate food insecurity barriers.
And the goal is to provide cancer education to the residents of Augusta Housing Authority, coupled with increasing access to, in this case, fresh fruits and vegetables.
Later on News 12 at 6 o'clock, I will tell you the different fresh foods that they have to offer here, and while many say that Augusta is considered a food swamp. In downtown Augusta, Claire Allen, on your side.
We have much more news ahead. Let's give you a live look outside now as we check.
Minutes.
The holiday weekend comes to a deadly close in Charleston. 10 people shot there, 4 critically. At least 3 law enforcement officers were injured after a shooting in downtown Charleston. The shooting happening shortly before midnight. Police say an officer responded to a noise complaint about a loud party at a vacant lot. The police chief says that officer immediately took incoming fire, 2 shots hitting his car. The 10 shooting victims include a 17-year-old and 9 adults. Today, the mayor making an emotional plea about the issue of gun violence in his city.
Every 16 hours in America, there's a mass shooting. Well, I don't know about you, but I'm angry about it. I'm mad about it. I'm fed up. And I concur with many of our citizens here and across this country that enough is enough. And this entire issue of gun violence has to be addressed.
Earlier today, 2 women were arrested for assaulting 2 deputies in a fight after the shooting. Investigators say there will be more arrests in this case. Georgia's primaries may be over, but the polls are open now for early voting in South Carolina. Here's a look at the Aitkin County Elections Office today on University Parkway. That is, by the way, the only polling location for early voting that's in Aitkin County. You can go there from 8:30 until 5. The primary is set for June the 14th. Early voting ends on June the 10th. It will be the first election under South Carolina's new voting law, which establishes early in-person voting instead of in-person absentee voting, and it restricts voting by mail. The no-excuse early voting period was offered in 2020, but on an emergency basis because of the pandemic. Now it is permanent. State House reporter Mary Green explains what South Carolinians need to know now.
What makes this new law different is that registered voters in South Carolina no longer need a reason or an excuse to vote early in person. Before, they needed to meet certain qualifications to vote absentee in person before Election Day, and they still need to meet some qualifications to vote by mail. But now, to vote early in person, all they need is a photo ID or a voter registration card.
I'm going to be on vacation the day of voting, so I wanted to be sure that I got to vote because that's very important to me.
I'm so glad that I got the opportunity to vote early.
because I didn't know when I was starting my new job. So it's important that I came out and vote today.
Early voting will be available to all registered voters in South Carolina on weekdays for the next 2 weeks through June 10th. It won't be offered the weekend of June 4th and 5th. Early voting locations will be open in every county from 8:30 a.m. to 5 p.m., essentially business hours. So where do you need to go? That depends on where you live, and it's very likely not your normal voting precinct. The new law allows each county to choose how many early voting sites to open, with at least 1 and up to 7. As many as 5 are open in Richland and Florence, and in counties with multiple locations, voters who live in that county can vote at any of them. But most counties, the ones in red, opted to stand up just 1 early voting location for the June primary. That includes half of the top 10 counties in the state with the most people: Greenville, Spartanburg, York, Charleston, and Lexington. Lexington County's elections director says their choice came down to money.
It is pretty expensive to have these early voting locations, so it will save the county some money. It also let people get used to early voting, so they can come here if they have any problems or they just want to see how the process works.
And at least for the first day, having just the 1 location wasn't an issue in Lexington County, with voters getting in and out within minutes.
Very easy, very quick process.
I'm sure it'll get busier as the days go by and we get closer.
Of course, voters don't need to cast their ballots early. They can still do so at their normal precincts on primary election day, Tuesday, June 14th. Reporting from the State House, I'm Mary Green.
Well, counties can't add, remove, or change early voting sites for future elections. So just because they have 1 location open for the June primary does not mean they won't have more coming up in November. Some counties say they want to open more locations this fall when they have more time to plan all that out. The Richmond County Sheriff's Office asking for your help this afternoon finding a man wanted for a violent crime, a crime that happened last week. Tavares Johnson wanted on charges of false imprisonment and battery. This happened May the 26th on Windsor Spring Road near Windsor Spring Elementary School. If you know anything about the crime or where he might be, contact the Sheriff's Office. The number is there on your screen. Some people are demanding a Florida amusement park ride be torn down. A 14-year-old boy died when he fell from the free fall ride at Aitkin Park back in March in Orlando. Members of the Juneteenth Project Coalition showed up yesterday to protest. They want that ride torn down and a memorial put up in its place.
So we need to see signs that not only will we permanently close it down, but we also grieve with the family, we grieve with the community. We know it's 430 feet high, and it's very traumatic for us that are even working in this area to see it still standing.
An inspection found the boy was able to slip out of the seat because the seat was manually adjusted, creating a large gap. His parents are suing Orlando Slingshot, which owns and operates the ride, as well as Aitkin Park, which leases out that property. At this point, it's not clear if that free fall ride will ever reopen. The Columbia County Sheriff's Office asking for help finding a missing man. They say Joseph Profaci was last seen around Columbia Road at Bel Air Road back on the 23rd of May, so a little more than a week ago. If you have any information, you can get in touch with the Sheriff's Office at the number there on your screen. So how well can you spell? One local student taking her talent to the national stage. We're going to meet her in just a few minutes. Anthony?
Well, if you're heading out the door this evening, you might be dodging a few isolated showers downtown Waynesboro. You're about to see one. We're going to be timing out the rest of these storms as we go through the next couple of days, and even some warmer temperatures on the way. All that coming up in the full forecast.
Diamond. A stressful vacation now over for passengers on board this cruise ship that caught fire last week. Now, 2,000 passengers are back on dry land after arriving in Port Canaveral, Florida. They returned on a different cruise ship 2 days later than originally scheduled. People on board say the fire was startling, but that Carnival Cruises handle things really well. One woman says she actually had a great time in Grand Turk, where she had to get off after the fire. But I guess that's making the best of a bad situation. You know, if you're going to get a couple more days, make the most of it. But glad everybody's off that ship and everybody's okay. Not the way you want to see your cruise come to an end there.
No, definitely not. I mean, definitely had some memorable memories for sure there, Richard. I mean, massive fire on the top of the ship like that, that's definitely going to be on the back of your head for a while. But yeah, fortunately no one was hurt there. But as far as our weather goes over the next couple of days,
Thanks, Anthony. An Aitkin County student on the very big stage today. Toole, representing Aitkin County Schools in the National Spelling Bee, one of 234 students from all across the country to make it this far. It's the first fully in-person contest since 2019. She was able to spell repoussage correctly, but was eliminated on defining the word vassal. Shout out to you, Caitlin. You made us all very proud, making it that far to the national stage. Okay, a narrow miss, serving as a word of warning for teenagers and parents. How this close call in Canada is important for all of us right here in the river region after a quick break.
The live prime rib at Hardee's. See Jurassic World Dominion in theaters June 10th.
Close call here. 3 teenagers in Canada come within feet of being run over by this speeding train. Transit officials posted the video from Toronto earlier this month, and you can see this train approaching a bridge where the teenagers are out there on the track. The engineer hitting the brakes, hitting the horn, but there's no way of stopping this train in time. Luckily, those teenagers managed to get out of the way with moments to spare. The transit agency says they posted the video to appeal to parents and to show the dangers of walking on the tracks. Definitely something we need to keep in mind with so many tracks around the Augusta area. But today, the president of AU giving the State of the University address. That's Dr. Brooks Keel there on stage. In his speech, he took a look at the past year. He looked ahead to the upcoming year as well. That includes the first steps of a new strategic plan. He says important parts of the plan are reaching goals and getting input from the university's community.
Grant me hope. Won't be disappointed.
She says she had a Cinderella moment when she went shopping for used roller skates. As fate would have it, she came across her own skates that she parted ways with 40 years earlier. Renee Forrestal had not skated for decades. She wanted to try it again. She bought some new skates last month and practiced with them for about a week, but they just didn't fit right. So she decided to order used skates online, and they fit perfectly. They were already broken into her feet exactly. She asked the seller, "Where'd you get these?"
Telling me, I flipped back the tongue, and there's my name, and I was like, what? And I couldn't even believe it. I thought, how? And then I said, this is me. These were mine.
When she saw her name written on the insides, she just started tearing up, and I thought that was so cool. I feel like they could make a Disney movie out of the whole thing.
And speaking of movies, if they do write this thing, it's incredible. The seller's name is actually James Bond. So the story's amazing in so many ways, but for her to find those, Anthony, this is why I never throw anything away.
Yeah, hey,
right
I mean,
here.
I think it's a pretty full circle moment for sure there, Richard. I don't know if you can just imagine going up and getting those skates and opening them up and seeing your name on the inside of them. It's
I
like,
think I know these things. Oh.
no wonder why they feel familiar. I think it's pretty cool. She was able to fit back in the same shoes 40 years later. It's a pretty cool story there for sure. All right, well, as we take a look at...
Still to come, we're learning about new plans to redevelop the old Regency Mall property. What to expect, whether this plan will actually fly. Ahead, News 12, First at 5 continues.
Investigate TV.